Jason, I just had the chance to meet you very recently, and part of the reason is that I'm not a one-man show, so I have 15 other coaches, and you have one of our best coaches in Chicago that you go to.
Lee Brower.
Lee Brower, who's just an amazing and actually a role model as a financial advisor, one of our coaches. But one of the things that I'd like to talk to you about was sort of your entry into the whole idea of strategic coach, and Joe really mentioned the time system. But what was your sort of what I would say the main immediate payback when you got into the coach, and where did it start, and what was the story of that?
Well, I was about 5 years ago, I was fortunate enough to make the top of the table $1 million round table, which, as you know, there's the latest statistics they put out. It's 1/10 of 1% of all financial services professionals in the world qualify. Mm-hmm. So I was elated to qualify for this group, and they had a trip or a conference. And when I went to this conference, I had one goal in mind, and it was to interview as many people as I possibly could, or ask them the same question over and over again. And I did just that. I asked them one simple question. Most of the people at the conference were in their 50s. I was a bit younger than that, and I knew that I could learn a lot from the people at this conference. Mm-hmm. So the question I had asked them is, I had asked if they could attribute one thing to the success they've had in their career, what would that one thing be? So I proceeded to ask this over and over a 3-day period, and a resounding response I heard over and over again was really two things. One was strategic coach. Second was charging planning fees. So as I heard this and I went through the few days, on the third day, I came up to a gentleman that apparently I'd forgotten I'd asked him that question the first day. I'd asked him the same question the third day, and he reminded me of that, and he said, "Jason, do me a favor." And he said, "Do you have your wallet on you?" And so that took me back a little bit. I said, "Yeah, I have it. Why?" And so he said, if you have your wallet, what I want you to do is I want you to walk over to that booth where their strategic coach had a booth at this meeting. And he said, "Hand me your credit card and don't ask him how much it costs, and just give it to him, yeah, and sign up for the next 500,000 plus class." Yeah. So I actually did just that. In the Colby quick start in me, I'm pretty high on that, so somewhat impulsive. So I did do that, and I had heard over the course of the 3 days so many people talk so highly of the program. So I joined the program, and little did I know, once I joined the program, one of the real principles or foundations is developing a unique process to charge planning fees for the advice that you're giving the clients. And that's really what brought me, and what was a big game changer in my practice in the way I go about doing business, is I did build a planning fee model based around the industry that I'm in, which is, life insurance and annuities, managed money, a tax model, and then incorporating estate planning into that as well. So a concept, more of a holistic approach of bringing everything under one roof.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I had my first financial advisor as a client in 1976. So I had started coaching in 1974, but the very first client that I got as a financial advisor was Top of the Table, which had just basically been formed that year. I think it was 75 or 76. Top of the Table had been formed, and then through him, about the next 5 or 6 financial advisors that I got, they were life insurance agents. They called them life insurance agents in those days. There were no advisors. It was all agents, and so right from the beginning, I had a very, very high model of what constituted a very, very successful, life insurance agent right from the beginning. And I think I spoke at my first Top of the Table. I think it was 1981. I think it was in Florida. I remember going down there. And one of the things that really impressed me, because I did more or less the same thing that you did, except in the reverse, I was an outsider, and so I wanted to find out what made these life insurance agents tick. And what really came across to me was not so much their product knowledge, but their client knowledge. You know, that all these people just struck you as being almost like psychologists, you know, that they had an ability to ask questions and to do almost like a 360-degree tour of their clients' lives in such a way that they could ask questions about anything. It wasn't just about matters related to their finances, but about their family and, you know, their belief system and, you know, what their legacy was going to be. And of course, a lot of the really best agents and advisors over the years have been, a lot of their client base has been owners of entrepreneurial businesses, which have double levels and triple levels of issues that have to be solved. But what really struck me from that they were not technicians. The best of them were not technicians. They were not product peddlers. They were not manufacturers' representatives. What they were is almost like unique lifetime coaches or lifetime guides to their client base. And I said, this is a fantastic model. And then as I got to know them, of course, it influenced me in my own coaching career. But one of the things that I discovered that if you're just selling yourself, it's very hard to do anything except a series of one-offs. In other words, you start one client relationship and you have a conversation, and that person, if they were to refer you to someone else, would not really be able to tell that other person what's so great about the relationship. And so what I hit on in the early 1980s is that everything that you do has to be put into a process, a unique process. I mean, you brought this up, and I think that if I've had a single message over the last quarter century anyway in the financial services industry, I said, in addition to any kind of income that you make from product-based sales, whether it's investments or whether it's annuities or it's commissions, you've got to have a completely separate and independent income for yourself. It's almost like a financial advisor, you have to have a life insurance policy for your own career, and that life insurance policy for your career has to be a separate, unique process that you have established a contractual relationship with the clients where they pay you for your wisdom, they pay you for your knowledge, they pay you for the questions that you ask them, they pay you for the clarity of thinking that they get when they sit down, and it's not product related at all, it's not company related. And because one of the things that I could see, Jason and Joe, you remember our long conversations
Absolutely.
over the years on this subject, I said the day's going to come when they're going to just make it so uncomfortable for you to be receiving commission income and to be receiving, assets on management fees are just another form of commission. And I can remember when they started, people were getting, they were getting 3%, and now some of them are getting 40 basis points, on their assets under management, and it's just come down. And it just means that every year on January 1st, when you look at your financial services career, it's going to be that much more difficult this year. You're going to work harder for less return.
Right.
Not only that, they're closing in with all sorts of regulations governing your marketing. And I said, you got to break free of this. You got to break free of this. You've got to have a completely separate business, a purely entrepreneurial business that's based purely on the uniqueness of your unique ability connecting with the central issues of
And that's
clients.
what it's done. It's been unbelievable. Since I've learned to develop this unique process through the coaching program, it has been such a life and game changer for my practice, because everybody in the office knows exactly where the client's at in the step in the process. It's streamlined everything. The clients look at me differently too, because they look at me more in the light of an advisor, like a highly compensated professional, where before you would get the feeling from time to time they would look at you just as a salesperson, because they knew the only way you were being compensated was by selling them a product. It's totally shifted the way that the client views me in the process that I go through with them. It's increased my closing ratio and actual implementation of a lot of the recommendations that I make. And I've noticed more referrals and more just stickiness to the client relationship in just following a process and really focusing in on that deeper level of connection and relationship development that, the R factor and DOS question that I've learned through Coach.